Welcome to cebsartalk. I am Evans Apia Kisi, the host of cebsartalk. CEBSA is Center for Better Society Advocacy and Research Africa. CEBSA Africa is a non-profit organization that believes in a better society for all. We in CEBSA Africa believe that a better society begins with you and I. Hashtag, a better society begins with me. For more information, please log on to www.cebsarafrica.org. Please follow us on the various social media platforms: YouTube, cebsartalk, Facebook at Cebsa Africa, Instagram, Cebsa Africa, Twitter at Cebsa Africa. As always, today we bring you another interesting discussion on our series of Interrogating the Manifestos. We focus on social protection, gender, and social inclusion. Everyone has the right to social security, as it is stated in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights from 1949. In 2007, Ghana developed the National Social Protection Strategy and revised it in the year 2012, with the extreme poor and vulnerable from risks and shocks in the processes of sustainable development. cebsartalk today examines the extent to which manifesto promises of the NPP and NDC have embraced the best approach to social assistance for the vulnerable and extreme poor. We identify what gaps exist in the manifestos aimed at promoting social protection, gender, and social inclusion. We want to understand what actions put in place by the next Ghana government in 2021 onwards, so that we would be able to empower individuals through social protection policies. These and many other questions will be discussed here on cebsartalk today. It is important to note that the discussion is not to pitch one manifesto against the other in terms of superiority, but to look at how the promises address the desired level of social protection, gender, and social inclusion. And to help us deal with this important issue are Miss Christine Ansong. She's a clinical psychologist assistant in the Child Health Department at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Ghana. She's also a research fellow at CEBSA Africa. She holds MPhil in clinical psychology from the University of Ghana, Legon. She also holds BA in psychology from the same university, and her research focus lies in mental health, childhood, sexual abuse, addiction, and social protection. I must say that we are excited to host you, Ms. Christine Ansong. Welcome to cebsartalk, Ms. Christine. Ms. Christine. All right. I'm sure my producers will check with Ms. Christine. So our next guest is Dr. Richard Michael Blaine. He is currently a lecturer and a researcher at the University of Ghana Medical School. He holds PhD in human biology from Ludwig Maximilians University of Munich in Germany. He also holds MPhil in human anatomy from the University of Ghana. He holds BSc in nutrition and food science from the University of Ghana. His research focus lies in cardiovascular diseases. I must say that we are delighted again to host you, Dr. Blaine. Welcome to cebsartalk, sir.
Hello, Evans. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much for having me once again. Great. It's an honor.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Blaine. And our other guest, I'm sure she would be brought back, perhaps due to technical issues. So to our fellow Cebsarians, thank you once again for making time with us. And as part of our series of interrogating the manifestos, today we continue with an interesting sector, which is social protection, gender, and social inclusion. Like we've been doing in the past weeks, today also we have two guests. Dr. Blaine would focus on the MPP's manifesto, and then our second guest, Ms. Christine Ansong, would also focus on the NDC's manifesto. It is important that we emphasize our guests do not speak for these political parties, nor do they represent the political parties on this platform. We are only here to have an intellectual discourse, as we have been doing always, in order to help build a better society for Ghana. Thank you. So as we wait for Ms. Christine, I would begin with you, Dr. Blaine. And quickly, if you look at the MPP's manifesto, in the area of social protection, gender, and social inclusion, they capture it as more of social development. What's your impression? I mean, if you look at the structuring of the manifesto with regards to social protection, gender, and social inclusion, or social development, which areas do you feel that the manifesto captured? Or should I put it this way, which areas of social development did you find exciting in your opinion? Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Evans, for your for having me again, and thank you to CEPSA. You guys are doing a very excellent job, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. All right, so I had some time with the NPP manifesto, and then just to enrich my knowledge, also some other documents. Let me first of all, let's say, lay down a few things that I would, if I'm going to, let's say, if I'm going to assess a political party's manifesto, policies, plans, and programs that I would be looking out for. Let me also say that I think I'm on this platform because some of you know that I'm interested in gender issues and issues of social protection. So I'm not an expert in gender issues or social issues. So that's where I'm going to come from. So first of all, the main question I was looking at is, does the plans or the policies or the manifesto cover the vulnerable in the society? Does it cover them adequately? Does it identify the vulnerable, all right? And does it also identify the different life stages of vulnerability? For example, we know that over the course of life cycle for women, at various points, they are sort of how do I even put it? They are prone, or they experience various forms of discrimination, injustice, and all kinds of issues. All right. So does the manifesto identify these stages? For example, let me just make an example. For example, young girls face some form of difficulty and discrimination in their education. All right. Teenage pregnancy in adolescents and even younger girls. And when it comes to issues of leadership, issues of inclusion, and voices being heard at the adult age. And then even in old age, again, women are vulnerable. You know, we recently had a whole issue of women, which comes, so an old women in old age being branded as witches and being maltreated and harassed and so on and so forth. So you realize that over the course of the life stages of women, they are at each stage vulnerable to some form of injustice or discrimination or violence, etc., etc. So does the manifesto identify these stages? And then does it identify the various vulnerable groups? For example, like I said, children, adolescents, girls, women at workplaces, pregnant women, for example, old women, people living with disabilities. Does it identify these vulnerable groups? Because a comprehensive and a well thought out social protection or social development project or policy must identify these or address the needs of these vulnerable groups or stages. That's one of the first thing I was looking out for. And then I was looking at whether the proposals they are given are time tested and proven. All right, will it solve the problem? I was looking at those ones also. And in fact, one question that I was also asking is what need, the second, an extension to the second one is, what need exactly are they trying to sort out? You realize, or maybe it's my opinion, that in Ghana, because of the nature of our politics, politicians seem to always go for low-hanging fruits, all right? So the things they can quickly do to make a statement. And so we are unable to solve complex problems that demands time, demands research, demands sitting down to actually come up with strong solutions, all right? So are the measures they are proposing, are they addressing the needs? And then also, another extension from these needs question that I asked was, which people even were consulted or were involved in drafting the policies for their manifesto? And I was just wondering, what research, what is the background to what they are proposing or they are looking at? And let me just bring this up. There was a meme or there was a picture that was circulating social media some time ago. I don't know how true that picture was, but I think it still made a statement. And there was a president who was supposed to sign some gender issue bill, all right? And the issue was supposed to be on women, about women. And then as he was signing it, he was surrounded by maybe up to about 8 or 10 men without a single woman, all right? And people thought that was curious or that was funny, even though I don't know how true it is, like I said, but that picture still speaks of the way our society is run, where a group of men sit down and then they now decide what the problems women are facing are, and then come up with solutions. And so eventually we are not solving any problem. We are just, doing things here and there, because we don't, if a group of men meet to come and discuss about sexual health of women or how to address menstrual issues of children, and you have 5 men sitting there planning it, what's the point anyway? You see, so based on the needs, I asked myself, what were the people who went into it? So now let me go to the manifesto itself. I realized that the NPP manifesto seemed to have focused more on people living with disabilities. And in fact, I did a crude search of the manifesto. I intentionally searched for the word gender. Okay, I intentionally searched for the word gender in the NPP manifesto. And then I realized that it appears maybe only 2 times, and all the 2 times that it, only once actually, and all the two, and this once that it appears, it wasn't about gender issue at all. So under their section for social development, there was no mention of the word gender in that place. So I I take it for granted, or maybe I think that they take it for granted, that having a program for social protection will automatically result in protecting women or addressing gender issues, all right? And I think it could be a misconception that social protection policies automatically or will naturally result in being gender responsive or being gender sensitive. So I realized that the NPP didn't really talk much about gender issues. And of course, you also know we've made this discussion before. The NPP's manifesto focuses more on what they promised 4 years ago and what they've done so far. So you always have this issue of trying to really find out exactly what they want to do in the next 4 years. So I try to find out in the next 4 years exactly what does NPP plan to do in terms of what they call social development. And like I'm saying, I think basically what they want to do is that they want to continue the good work they believe they have started in terms of social development. So mostly they focus on school feeding program, which I guess is assumed that will increase inclusion when it comes to education. They are increasing the amount per student. And then I think they've also set up some interministerial committee that is supposed to ensure that people living with disabilities and issues are inculcated in the plans of the MMDAs. And I think that they just want to, we don't know what, I don't know, for 4 years, they set up a committee. I'm not sure what the committee has come up with because it's not in the thing anyway, but they propose quite a number of things to do for people living with disabilities, which center on increasing economic empowerment and other things. Like I said, I did not find a lot for women. For children, they again did not say anything. They said they've developed a national child protection toolkit. I'm not sure what that is. And they've distributed it in communities. I don't know what that toolkit is supposed to do. But so again, some of the questions I asked, I was not able to. I don't think their social development plan identifies all the vulnerable groups, number one. Neither does it identify all the vulnerable stages. And it doesn't seem to address gender issues at all. I guess maybe, just maybe, the reason is that the issues with people living with disabilities is probably a key campaign issue because I think they have come out to propose that they are always left out. So I guess the NPP government decided to focus more on that. I don't know, but I will give them maybe a good thumbs up for focusing on people living with disabilities. However, the measures they propose are things that are still, hanging. And we because the point is that the last question then is that the proposals must deal with the problem itself. You see, and that's why I was asking which people are actually sat down to craft NPP's manifesto on social protection and social development. I don't see anything protecting children. Rape and child abuse, all right? Child labor is an issue in Ghana. It doesn't seem to address that in any way. And like I'm saying, I think that maybe they assume, or they, in their thinking, they expect the programs like maybe school feeding program and so on and so forth to translate, all right? But, school feeding program is good. It's an excellent project, no doubt about it, but it still will not protect a girl child from teenage pregnancy, or neither will it protect a boy child from child labor and all that. So if you want to protect the vulnerable, you really have to draw up extensive policies that addresses the issues in the society. The question is, are the manifesto or is the manifesto of the NPP addressing the vulnerables and the problems we have? Some of these problems are not just economic. Most of the time, the politicians deal with gender and social protection issues as using economics. So, for example, we have several programs in Ghana that includes giving funding to women entrepreneurs, giving money, but again, like I'm saying, it's dealing with an aspect of the issue. Is not strongly protecting the woman. And in fact, research still shows that even though these economic empowerment help, they still do not, for example, they still do not reduce domestic violence, which is a key issue. We always take it for granted that domestic violence is connected to economic status, but these issues are deeply complex or complicated by cultural practices, religious beliefs, and so on and so forth. So,
all right,
the policies has to address these kind of things. And just to round up, there was something for it. So let me just bring up one point. For example, just an example. In Ghana, when a man impregnates a woman, he walks away and leaves the woman to fend for herself, bring up the child, take care of the child, sponsor the child without the man bearing any responsibility. All right. But in developed societies, the state comes in and makes sure that the man bears a responsibility to the upbringing of the child. This is an area that nobody is talking about in Ghana. And the issue of paid parental leave has not come up. We said that women should do, which in this country, we should do 6 months exclusive breastfeeding, but you give 3 months parental leave for the woman, which doesn't make sense. So we need to talk about these things, but and quite for me, a bit disappointing is that the manifesto does not say anything about assault, doesn't say anything about rape, doesn't say anything about domestic violence. So if I was to, to give a fair, in my perspective, there were quite a lot of things that should have been involved. Yes, but like I said, I will give them a little bit of thumbs up for their focus on persons living with disabilities.
Thank you very much. I think that you've already taken the discussion to the next level already. So for you, when you look at the NPP's manifesto, clearly there are promises on social protection and gender inclusion. I think they capture it as social development more in their manifesto. Your point here is that it misses a lot of points. There's no attempt to be able to identify the different vulnerable groups. There's no mention of how they intend to promote gender equality and the likes that you talked about. But there was one point that, and of course you also mentioned that one thing you liked is the fact that they focused a bit more on people living with disabilities and bringing in the perspective that perhaps their thinking is that with those policies that they have, like school feeding program, it might automatically lead to an improvement in social protection and gender inclusion, which necessarily is not so as far as research is concerned. But you made one fundamental point that I just wanted to follow up. When you say that you wonder the kind of people they consulted or the kind of people who drafted the manifesto, my question is that really important? Don't we have enough? I mean, this would not be an excuse for them, right? We have enough evidence or enough research for them to have, been able to draft a manifesto without necessarily speaking to people on the ground or involving these different groups in carving the manifestos. So this would not really be a problem, right?
So I don't know if my thinking is that political parties have campaign teams, I'm not very much informed on how the political parties develop their manifestos, which team does that and whatnot. But it was a question on my mind because, like I'm saying, if you want to propose a policy that protects persons living with disability, you need to have an in-depth understanding of the challenges they are facing. You need to understand what works, what doesn't work. Like we talked about in education, it's the same thing. I think that gender issues are very complicated. I'll give you an example. In 2012, a presidential candidate promised that he was going to increase parliamentary involvement of women to 40%, right? Funny enough, within his reign, the percentage actually dropped. And I'm not so sure, I stand for correction, but I think the percentage now in Ghana's parliament is about 13%, all right, which is even way below other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, all right? So the question is, we planned to do this. It did not work. Why didn't it work? You need then now to find out and to consult. So that's one point. Or like you said, the research is there, but who is reading the research anyway? All right. The other thing is that you need to also know the problems that the vulnerable people are facing. Exactly how do you, for example, people living with disabilities, in my thinking, will have two main issues. One, that they can move freely in the city without having to depend on other people. I mean, that is the basic, the basis of rehabilitation and support for people living with disabilities, that they can be able to, on their own, live life comfortably without having to depend so much on other people. So in designing our cities, for example, how easy it is for blind people to move about using public transport. But nobody really talks about it. And then the next thing is the economic aspect.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So
maybe when we come to the second round, as we look at how, we can, what kind of recommendations or suggestions, I'm sure that we would hear.
Right. Okay. Yes.
That.
Thank you.
So let me welcome you, Miss Christine Ansong, to cebsartalk. We understand that you had some difficulties, but we are glad that you are back. And I also need to state that I'm told you are an MPhil candidate. I said earlier on that you hold an MPhil, not you. And I'm sure very soon this would be done. So welcome to cebsartalk. And for viewers, Christine Ansong would focus on the NDC's manifesto. As I earlier on mentioned, she necessarily does not represent nor speak for the NDC as such. It's just an intellectual discussion that we are having. So for you also, for the same question, when you look at the NDC's manifesto on social protection, gender, and social inclusion, what's your impression? Which areas do you feel they captured very well, and what gaps exist in their manifesto as far as social protection, gender, and social inclusion are concerned?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on the show. But before I start, I would like to issue a disclaimer that yes, I am with the Child Health Department at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, but I am not speaking now on their behalf. I am not speaking on behalf of the department. I am speaking in my own capacity. And also the fact that I am not a gender expert or social protection expert. My field is psychology, but of course, I have read the People's Manifesto, and I'll move on to what I think about the People's Manifesto. So there is so much to cover here in this People's Manifesto. It covers a whole lot of things. And per my observation, I noticed that the People's Manifesto has been divided into 6 classes. That is, they talked about the economy, making the economy better and uniting against poverty. I have a copy of the manifesto here, so from time to time, I'll be referring to some of the things in here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay. Okay, so they have the economy and then human development, under which social protection is. So, and then the infrastructure, job creation, good governance, anti-corruption and accountability, and then international relations and foreign affairs. So these are the clusters of the whole People's Manifesto. And under social protection, so here, like I mentioned earlier, social protection is under human development, under which we have the health for all, health policies, health infrastructure, and capacity building. And I mean, I've seen a lot of the policies written in small placards, you know, which I can make a lot of sense for health for all. That is the free primary healthcare policy, which is like all over. And then the infrastructure, building more hospitals and capacity building, that is with regards to the professionals. And I can see that COVID has been streamlined into this manifesto. So this manifesto, this side of it was written considering the effect of COVID and the effect of post-COVID, which I think is very commendable. There is also education, technical and vocational training for vulnerable people, students loan. There is a whole lot that is written here. And I had my, I don't know if it's my friend, but
Your co-panelist.
my co-panelist, thank you, talking about the exclusion of rape issues from the NPP manifesto. And it is something that has been included here. And for me, it's one thing that I will applaud the NDC for doing. I am a rape activist. Rape issues are very important to me. Issues concerning women are important to me. Although I am not a gender activist, I am a psychologist. But the issue of one problem we have a lot at the hospital is when somebody has been raped and then the person has to seek medical attention before the issue is reported and the people cannot pay. And according to the manifesto, that fee is going to be scrapped. So it will help us prosecute. So sometimes you can have patients who have come, they have been raped, but because they cannot pay, the culprits cannot be punished. And then they are stuck because they are not able to get justice. Now the whole job is on you, the psychologist, to do everything. So for me, it's very, very important. The social protection part also made mention of people who suffer violence, child trafficking, which is happening now. It covered children on the streets, the KIAs, and the expanding school feeding program. It's a lot. It's a lot from point A to M. I feel like generally it has covered a whole lot of things that I cannot think of. I think they did a very good job. I would say that when you're in a position, I mean, for some reason, you are able to sit and do your homework very, very well. And if they say that they engaged the people on the grounds and then got to understand what they needed, I would believe them because I feel like a lot of work has gone in here. But what I kept thinking about was this whole thing, building facilities to house people, KIAs, and implementing the National Apprenticeship Program to help people to be skilled, and all of it involves money. So the only thing I was thinking about was the funding. I mean, these are good policies, these are good promises, but where are we going to get the money to do so, especially now that we are so riddled with big loans, huge loans? How are we going to make sure that all these things we are talking about is going to come to pass. And like my co-panelist was saying, it is not just about bringing out the promises or the policies, it's about how it is going to directly impact the lives of the people you are targeting. So under social protection, I saw something here about targeting and the Ghana Household Registry, and then I went to search for it. So I discovered that I think around 2013 to 2015, when Honorable Oyelita was gender minister, they started the compilation of the Ghana Household Registry. So this whole idea was to help target people who actually need help. So what this register was supposed to do is to contain demographics of people who are living with disability, people who are vulnerable, street children, KIAs, and or what have you, so that we will be able to know where exactly who is and what exactly their needs are. So this registry started, but I don't think it was completed. And I think it's one of the things that is very, very, very important. It's actually forms the basis of this whole policies, because we are in this country. We have seen instances where they said there was a fund or fund for scholarships for brainy but needy children, and then it ended up being we ended up seeing lists that contains ministers and people who can very much afford. So I think, like, I agree with my co-panelist. It is not just about putting out the policies. I think what has been written here about the Ghana Household Registry should be taken seriously. And then once it's done, we will be able to target the people we are trying to target to help.
So thank you very much, Ms. Christine Ansong. So for you, generally speaking, the manifesto excites you very much. I mean, they have touched various areas that you feel indeed addresses social protection, gender and social inclusion needs.
Yeah.
And
well, yes. For instance, let's look at a policy like the free primary healthcare. Okay, free primary healthcare, although it's good for everybody, but is very good for vulnerable people. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Free primary healthcare is good for everybody, but it's very, very good for vulnerable people, especially children on the streets, people, the KIAs and everybody. They don't have to take their monies and go and pay for hospital bills and all. It is our responsibility as a society to take care of the vulnerable. And if free primary healthcare is going to help, then it's good. The National Apprenticeship Program is good. But like I'm saying, when we are implementing a National Health Apprenticeship Program, it should target more the people who are vulnerable, the people who actually really need these policies. Do you understand me? So for me, I believe that the NDC did a very comprehensive job covering, they covered so much. They covered so much to Zongo communities, things they want to do in the Zongo communities. The fact that we are lacking more Islamic schools and Islamic tutors are going to be paid. I mean, I feel like it's the Hajj pilgrimage issue. There's a whole lot that have been covered. I think they have done a comprehensive, and I would reiterate that I think that when you're in opposition, you are able to sit properly. Yes. Well. And then do things better. So I am not surprised.
All right. Anyway, but just a quick follow-up one. So a summary of what you said, for you, it's a brilliant job as far as social protection, gender and social inclusion are concerned in the NDC's manifesto. Your only challenge is the funding bit, how well they are going to fund it. But if we listen to what Blaine said, I mean, Blaine also mentioned one major gap being the lack of, identification of different vulnerable groups. Is this something that the NDC manifesto captured very well? Did they also, you talked about targeting though, which means they intend to target some group of people. Is it something that you feel is well carved? Do you feel that, or they are just throwing in words by saying that we would target this group of people? Is it something that you feel the targeting is properly done? They have been able to identify the different, stages of vulnerability in our country, or they just put everybody into one basket and say that we would provide this for this group of people, we provide this for this, because even within the Kaya groups, I guess there might be differences in them as far as their economic status is concerned. Do you feel they did justice to that weakness in the MPP's manifesto?
Well, I'm sorry if you're hearing any noise. It's
No, it's fine. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So you were talking about the targeting, and I made mention of the Ghana Household Register, which I found in the People's Manifesto, and then went ahead to look for what that is and what it's meant. So if that is anything to go by, then I think it was a good job they started, because the Ghana Household Registry is supposed to kind of compile all these people, what they do, where they live, their ages, educational background, if they have any, and it's supposed to help us target them. So if the Ghana Registry the Household Registry is anything to go by, which I think they began in 2013 to 2015. If it is completed, I think we will be able to solve these issues. Also, there is a high chance that we can have the registry and still the resources will not go to these people. So I believe that you cannot build a nation or a business or an institution based on the hope that people will be good or people will be kind, because our natural self is not good by default. We are selfish. So I believe that measures should be put in place to ensure that indeed these people that we have targeted, after targeting, after compiling the register, after targeting, measures should be put in place to ensure that these people are indeed getting the resources that is being allocated to them. But like I said, this is just a manifesto. I don't think everything can be compiled into this, or like everything that went into coming into this decision can't be pushed into a manifesto.
All right.
I hope I have answered you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Miss Christine Ansong. And let me read a few messages here. If you are just joining us on today's edition of cebsartalk, today we are looking at social protection, gender, and social inclusion as has been captured in the MPP and the NDC's manifesto. And our guests have been Ms. Christine Ansong, who is focusing on the NDC's manifesto, and Dr. Richard Blaine, who is focusing on the MPP's manifesto. So pretty much in line with what has been said already, there's a comment here from our own Professor Enoch Emchi, who says that manifestos are a snapshot of plausible policies. It might not be detailed as needed, but must address the needs of the people. I think this was also clearly stressed on by Dr. Blaine and to some extent also Ms. Christine as well. And then Mr. Lord Edusei also says that funding is critical in achieving the goal of any social intervention. This was also explicitly mentioned by Ms. Christine Ansong, as she identifies a major gap in the NDC's manifesto as being how they are going to fund the numerous social interventions that they hope to promote if they win power. So we would begin with a second round, and in this round, we would now look at ways or actions that we would expect the next government of Ghana in 2021 to take as far as promoting social protection and gender inclusion for all is concerned. Again, I'll begin with you, Dr. Blaine. At least you already began the discussion around things that you feel should, or actions that you think should be put in place to ensure that. So the question I ask is that, what would you expect? I mean, for the next government, regardless of whoever wins, what would you expect that is done to, be able to empower individuals through the various social protection policies that they intend to roll out?
Thank you once again, Evans. Generally, what I will say is that I hope that the next government will be bold enough, all right, will be bold enough to raise the commitment and the seriousness about social protection and gender issues, all right, because I feel that during election times, people take on different groups and try to tell them, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that to get their votes. I mean, there's a general feeling in the country that politicians just come to get our votes and then, but I hope that the next government will be much more serious about tackling gender issues and issues of social vulnerability, inclusion, and protection, because these issues are at the core of our families, the core of our societies, and the core of our cultural setting. So if we just do business as usual, we are not going to improve the lives of our people or of ourselves. We're not going to improve our society. We are not going to become a better society if we don't take these issues seriously. So one of the things I hope is that the next government will become bolder, okay, to commit to tackling gender inequalities, to promote women and girls empowerment, all right, to make sure that girls are protected. I made an example. I don't know if it was on this program, but I made an example where during my PhD training, I was working very late in the laboratory. So I was in Germany at that time. I worked very late in the laboratory till 3 a.m. And 3 a.m. I was walking to my hostel, all right? And then I saw someone on a skating board, just a single person, just rolling quite like leisurely by. And then when the person passed, there were earphones in the ears, holding her phone, and it was a girl, right? Probably a teenager. And it was 3 a.m. Okay. Can we build our society to the point where any woman, any girl can feel protected enough to walk about at 3 a.m., all right, and be safe? So we have to have a government that will commit that, look, this is an issue that confronts us, and we want to. And then, of course, the funding has been talked about. If you look at the free SHS program, it tells you that when any government is really, really serious about an issue, they will invest in it. So the next thing is that we invest. How much are we really investing into protecting the vulnerable in our society? I don't know. I mean, NPP talked about increasing the funding allocation to people living with disabilities. I think NDC also mentioned it. I hope this becomes a reality and not just service. The other thing is that I hope the next government builds capacity, all right? We need to build capacity to increase women representation, because the research shows that when women are in leadership positions, the results are better than men. I mean, the research shows it, that when women are empowered economically, families are better. So this is something that we need. It is not just an issue of men against women, blah, blah, blah. It is something that has proven results, and we should take seriously. So I hope that the next government would take issues of teenage pregnancy much more seriously, All right, domestic violence. Look, we have some measures. For example, we have DOFSU, but the research shows that when it comes to domestic violence, all right, legal interventions sometimes have a counterproductive effect. We need to research into the issues we are facing. One of my observations about Ghana is that we don't research into our problems, or when the research is done, nobody listens to the researchers. Okay, so we need to research into our problems because, like I mentioned before, some of these things have deeper social and cultural and religious and undertones, which have to be sorted. And I give you another example. So civil society have been trying for years to close down witch camps, right? Years. We're talking about 5 years, 10 years. People tackle one single witch camp and try to close it, and for over 5 years, they are unable to do so. Is it because of lack of commitment? Is it that we don't understand the socio-cultural issues of, supporting these things? And yet, when one single issue happens and it gets into the media, everybody talks about it, everybody pays lip service, everybody uses it to do campaign, and then after that, that's it, okay? But on a daily basis, old women are being violated. The violence are being perpetrated against them. And so we need to take this issue seriously, okay? And apart from investing, I guess that the next thing is that we need to pick, maybe we cannot solve all the problems at a go. So let's pick the very sensitive ones. Like I said, one of the issues that's strongly on my heart is that we will have a policy that holds men responsible when they father a child with a woman. Okay, we have high, teenage pregnancy rates. Okay, and usually the men just walk away. Okay, and then you have a teenage girl raising a baby all by herself, struggling. Okay, and these issues have a ripple effect. So what's going to happen is that it affects the nutrition of the child, it affects cognitive development of the child, it affects the education of the child. But we should have a policy that holds every man that impregnates a woman responsible, whether they marry them or not. They should make contributions to raising the child and not dump the children on the women, because then that burdens the women further. All right, and increases their vulnerability. The other issue is, like I said, we need to talk deeply about parental, leave, not just for women, but for men. In Ghana, we don't talk about parental leave for men. Men must also be encouraged to actively participate in raising the children. And this is done in civilized societies. For example, we have some European countries that give men 3 months paternity leave. In my workplace, I went to ask them that, do we have a policy for paternity leave? They told me, you have enough leave days, use some as your paternity leave. You understand? It's like nobody thinks this is an issue to talk about. And that's also because we do not seem to understand how intimate these little issues impact grossly on our economy and then on the well-being of our families, And then I hope that the issue of violence against girls, rape, sexual harassment becomes something that we can boldly take on. You see, the challenge again is that most people who are occupying sensitive positions or decision-making positions are men. So they don't relate very well to these things. But if you have a conversation with a young lady, and because I teach, I do have conversations with you realize that one of the challenges of a woman is that right from her young age, she faces this danger all through her life. So how much are we protecting these girls who are going to school, who are going to the workplaces? How do we protect them? I had an encounter at a certain place I visited, and then there was a meeting, and then I saw a man hit the buttocks of the woman, and then everybody around laughed. And I thought, oh my God, like, we seem to just play with these things. And then it culminates into bigger, violations. And so we need to be bold enough. We need a government that is bold enough to take on these issues. And then also, finally, I hope that women representation in leadership positions, okay, just selecting, well, this issue is too political, so let me not go there. But you see, just picking one woman into a certain key sensitive position does not solve the problem. All right, it doesn't solve the problem. We need to tackle the problem. So maybe just saying I have a female running mate, or I have a woman as the Speaker of Parliament, or I have a woman as the Chief of Justice, it doesn't solve the problem. It only shows that maybe you are ready to do something, and we should applaud you for your readiness. But there must be that commitment. And like I said, the challenge we have is that we, the men, look, there's something called white privilege. There's also men privilege or male privilege, where if you are a guy, you tend to just sail through things like that. This is a very simplistic statement anyway, in context, so as compared to the female counterpart, okay? And so the men in the positions, I'll give you another example. I'm in an organization, and then a group of men who are in a certain committee, and of course they occupy the positions rightly, met to decide on promotion regulations, okay? And then for years applied it, and then one day we realized that actually the regulations did not take into account the special situation of women in that field. And then they now formed another committee and asked a woman to head it before they can now think about the gender issues. Okay, so if we don't include women at all levels of decision making and planning, we are always going to be narrow. And then, like I said, this is not a men against women issue, but eventually it intimately affects our families and our social system. So those are the things I'm expecting the next government to boldly tackle, and I hope this becomes a reality.
Thank you very much, and I must say excellent points right there, and I like almost everything that you have said, beginning with the fact that in terms of actions, and we also talked about this last week on the show, it's all about leadership, leaders who are committed to, promoting some of these things, and we believe we can achieve it. I like two of the things that you said, and I'm sure my producers will capture it one day. I have to reiterate one of them. I hope that as a country, we can build systems that would allow teenage girls to walk freely at 3 a.m. without any fear. This happens a lot in the advanced countries. And one of the things which you said that, this would also be something that I would also advocate for, that we should hold men responsible to father women that they impregnate. You said that it then increases the vulnerability of the women. I tell you, it also increases the vulnerability of the children. The vulnerability of the whole society. So we should try to work against some of these things. So I come to you, Miss Christine, and I'm sure some of the issues he mentioned, you would also love to touch on them. Like he talked about this rape cases and other stuff. For you also, what would you expect the next government of Ghana to do in order to promote social protection, gender and social inclusion? And what is this one thing that is dear to your heart?
Okay. So I really appreciate my co-panelist. I mean, I feel like he's a feminist at heart, and the way he's passionate about the issues of women is very commendable and very admirable. We thank you.
No comments.
Well, so after all this, what my major concern is that yes, we want to do all these. We want to protect our girls. We want to make our girls feel safe. I want to feel safe and everything. But in the case of Ghana, the dynamics are not the same as other countries. What are the very dynamics that causes a young girl to be at risk of rape or be idle or even be at risk of sometimes not rape, but sex. Just, like the girl is 16, 17, 18, even sometimes 19. Looking at our system, even a girl can be 20 and still not very self-reliant and will still end up on the street if she should get pregnant. Will still go through all the problems a teenage will go through if she should get pregnant. Even in Ghana, Ghana is different. It's not like some developed countries where you can have good support system. In Ghana, even at 25, when if you don't take care, you get pregnant, you may end up like a 16-year-old struggling the same way. So then, what are the dynamics? What are the specific things that is making our girls vulnerable? Like, we cannot just make a blanket statement. And one thing that really bothers me right now, today, is the double track system. From I like I said, I'm a rape activist, and from places where I have listened, some of these children go to school for 3 months and then they are back and then they are home and then they are idle. What measures are we putting in place to make sure that our girls are being engaged all the time and not, how do we call it? And not being lured into such relationships or such problems. So first, as Ghana as a country, we already had a teenage pregnancy problem. But I believe that things like the double track system is also causing the increment of teenage pregnancy in our society today. So whoever wins power, no matter what, I want in my heart for the person to abolish the double track system. I don't think it's working very well. So ideal. And also, if any of you have paid attention, if you pay attention to my wall, whenever I talk about issues of rape, I try to target men also or boys also. You see, I believe that no girl child is immune to rape. Nobody can be fully protected from rape, even women, young adults and everything. A rapist will rape you no matter what.
Yep.
Whether you are at a party with him or her, or he's your father who gave birth to you, or an uncle whom you trust, it doesn't matter. So then we need to invest into training our male children, because it doesn't matter how protected a girl is, a girl can be raped right
Hello, Miss
under your
Christine.
nose, right in your house.
Your connection.
Wherever, at the church. In fact, yes.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It's better now.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, we can
Yes.
hear you. Please go ahead.
It's better.
Yeah.
So where did it end off? Okay. Okay. So first, I want the double track system to be abolished. Said my internet is unstable. I want the double track system to be abolished because I believe it makes the children idle. Secondly, I want us to invest into our male children by teaching them and raising good boys and good men, because no matter what a woman does, she can't be raped by anybody at all at any point in time, be it church, wherever. Home, even fathers are raping their daughters, stepfathers, and all of that. So we need to invest into our male children and make sure we're raising good boys, and also abolish the double track system. With the issue of aging and the witch camp thing, recently I was saddened by the lynching of Mami Dente based on the accusation that she was a witch. And And I had the opportunity to see some of the videos. It was gruesome. I mean, to have a lot of people standing by and watch this poor woman being lynched. I believe that the public education on such things should be increased. People need to be educated on some of these things. So the next government that will come in, I wish, will educate the public on these things. And I would also hope for a home for the aged. And I can see it is covered in the NDC People's Manifesto, the aged at point 3.734. So the supports a Department of Social Welfare to create day centers and homes for the aged. I think it's a very laudable policy. Our old people can be housed and taken care of and protected. So I think these are some of the things I would want the new government to focus on when it comes to protection, besides making sure that those who actually need the help are getting the help. Very important. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Christine. You also gave very excellent points out there. So for you, should be more of education, particularly for our male children, in order to raise responsible and decent boys. You also talked about teenage pregnancy, which I'll come back to you with a follow-up question. Support for the aged and the likes. But you make you made, for in my opinion, you made a controversial statement by linking the increase in teenage pregnancy to double track system. Do you have data to support that? Because I mean, double track system, I don't know how long it has been in the system and how one could be convinced that this could be attributed to, you know, the rise in teenage pregnancy. Do we have data to support that?
Okay, so before I said that, I mentioned that I have been to a couple of places, and listening to the people, I am convinced that was my statement. I believe, I am convinced that the double track system is contributing to teenage pregnancy. I've had the opportunity to travel around Ghana this few days, been to a couple of places. I don't know if I should mention them. I've been to some parts of the Volta region, Central region, in the Ashanti region to work. And from everything I'm hearing, parents complain a lot. I don't have research, but like I said that being to certain communities and listening to the people, I am convinced that parents believe because their children are not fully engaged, they are engaging in these behaviors, which is causing a lot of people to get pregnant. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. And I know I would give Dr. Blaine the opportunity to also comment on the link between double track and teenage pregnancy, as I can see you would want to say something about it. But just another follow-up question to you, Miss Christine, because in the first round, you mentioned something which I also think that it's quite dear to my heart. And I know of this program, Edmond and I, one of our producers, we had a discussion around it. You said that when people are raped and they come to the hospital, usually they don't have money. And then, to put it this way, in the end, it becomes, sorry, but a foolish case. What is it about it? And what would you expect that is done to address this important, you know, issue as well?
Okay, so monies that is supposed to be paid for these medical examinations are bottlenecks for us to take care of these people who are truly vulnerable. And so for me, I think before I started working at the hospital, I wasn't even really aware that people had to pay to be examined. To me, it made absolutely no sense that a person who has been raped and seriously traumatized needed to pay for medical examination before the culprits could be arrested. Like, it didn't make sense to me. So yes, I want that to be scraped out. And I mentioned it is here. It is one of the things that makes me like this manifesto. I pray that it is my prayer that if the NDC should win, they should do that.
Or even if the CPP also wins, also I think they could also do that, right?
Yeah, I'm saying if the NDC should win because it is in their manifesto. So it
Very
makes me
well.
feel like it's something they have thought about.
Very well.
But whoever comes, I believe, should look at this issue because it's a very big problem. It's a huge problem. Then it's very difficult to deal with victims of rape who have not found justice. And
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Thank you very much, Miss Christine. So our time is already fast spent. It's up. But sure, of course, I'll give you a minute or two, Dr. Blaine, to hear your take on the link between double track and teenage pregnancy.
You know, sometimes some issues become so politicized that, or the topics are just politically sensitive. You know, let me draw your attention to the fact that during the lockdown, the COVID-19, because of COVID-19 pandemic, we learned that domestic violence increased, all right, and those kind of things. So it is not a wonder that when people stay at home more, the risk of some of these things increase. It's not a big wonder, all right? So I will not be surprised that that could be the case, that because the children are staying home more, they will be at more risk. But that is not a problem of the double track, okay? That parents must take more responsibility for their children. A lot of parents in Ghana, a lot of parents like to dump their children at school so that the responsibility of protecting them and keeping them safe is on the school authorities and not on the parents. But parents also need to take responsibility. So if parents are telling the government that, oh, take away double track system because that is making risking our children from getting pregnant, they are just being irresponsible. So that is not a problem of the teenage, the double track system, but the fact that when children are at home, they seem to be at a higher risk. So that should draw us to dealing with the cause of it. The irresponsible men who do these things to the young girls, and then the parents themselves. Okay, so those are that's the thing. But for me, I've not seen any research, but it is not a wonder that that could happen. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. I guess we could stretch this debate, but we would end it here. One last comment from Facebook, then I come to you to take your concluding remark. But the concluding remark should be message for Ghanaians to observe peace before, during, and after the 2020 December elections. We know it's just around the corner. So one from Nana Kwejo Jamna, he says manifestos are silent on funding sources that would help actualize the snapshot of ideas we never know until they come to power. So this has also been, highlighted here on the show. So maybe this time around, I start with you, Miss Christine. What's your message for Ghanaians to observe peace before, during, and after the 2020 elections?
Well, so I would say that we are getting close to election. This election is a very different kind of election. There's a high chance that people will be anxious, excessively emotional, and irritable, like I say. So we must pay attention to people's emotions. We must be circumspect in our utterances and our comments on social media. We must know that in as much as we want power, or we may all have our preferences and we want our people to win, we only have one Ghana, and we should protect that Ghana. We should ensure that this election is violence free, but it should be free and fair also. If you go to the registration center and they tell you, if you go to the polls and they tell you your name is not in the register, kindly just go home quietly and wait for the rest of us to vote. No need to scream or shout. At the end of the day, whoever will win will win. It won't make much difference. So please, let's all try to be peaceful and then have our Ghana intact. That's all.
All right, so let's all try to be peaceful and have our Ghana intact. That's the last bite of Miss Christine Ansong. So, Dr. Blaine, what's your concluding remark on our elections soon?
Yeah, I saw somewhere that it's about a few days to elections, and I was like, wow. I I think that once everybody is law abiding and respects human rights, we should sail through very safely and very perfectly. So everybody should make sure they are being law abiding. No one can take the law into their own hands. We need to leave the authorities to do their work. Just vote, go home. I hear you can go and watch the counting. I think this beyond that, listening to radio, beyond that, I think there's not much we should commit ourselves to doing apart from voting peacefully, obeying the law, and so that's what I will say. And I wish Ghana all the best.
So thank you very much. And then I must say that next week we would have our last show for the year. We would look at elections in Ghana. So for our fellow Cebsarians, you don't want to miss that show. We would have our own Professor Poku Entry and one other surprise guest. And so make time with us. Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Blaine. Thank you very much, Ms. Christine Ansong, for your wonderful inputs. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you so much.
Albert.
Wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Albert and Edmond, also for doing a great job here. And I must say that we've enjoyed the show today. We hope that you still follow CEPSA to get more of the sound bites, the interesting sound bites by our guest today. We will be posting them. Thank you. I am Evans Apia Kisi, the host of CEPSA Talk. See you next week. Have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.